So you've just downloaded Clash Royale. You put in your age, good old 29 years old. You complete the tutorial. So you've just reached Arena 1. Congratulations. You're at 0 trophies right now. So what is the objective of this game and how do you win? So in this game, there are going to be 3 towers, right? There's going to be the King Tower, which is the tower that the king's in, and 2 Princess Towers. Basically, if you destroy more towers than your opponent does, you win. But how do you take their tower, and how do you not lose yours? So before you hop into a game, you need to take a look at your deck. You have Prince, Archers, Minions, Arrows, Fireball, Giant, Musketeer, and the mini P.E.K.K.A. So what are these cards and what do they do? First, I'm going to talk about the spells. Spells deal direct damage to towers or troops. So you can see right here that arrows can go and take out these troops. Pretty basic. Fireball does a little bit more damage, but it covers a smaller area. And then arrows covers a wider area, but doesn't do as much damage. Next, you have Knight. Knight is a mini tank, meaning that he has a mid-range amount of health. He attacks by melee, and he can only hit 1 target at a time. The reason only hitting 1 target at a time is important is because later down the line, if you play swarm cards like Skarmy, since he can only attack 1 troop at a time, he's going to get melted. So you never want to play a Knight into a swarm. Next, you have Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A. is a mini tank just like Knight, except he does a lot more damage per hit. He does not have as much health as the Knight though. Next, we have our win condition. A win condition is a card that only goes for towers. For example, let's say you place a Knight in the middle. Their Giant would not go towards your Knight. It only go towards your Princess Tower, and it only attacks that tower. This is good for getting towers because if it only goes for towers, then they need to take it out before it gets to their tower. There are other win conditions in this game. There's a whole bunch, but you start with the Giant. Next, you have Minions, Archers, and Musketeer. These are air cards. Well, actually, Minions are the only air card because the Knight can't hit them, obviously. And then Archers, they're ground cards, but they can also attack air as well as ground. Same thing with Musketeer. So now that you know the card archetypes, let's hop into a game. So the game starts at 3 minutes, and you can see at the bottom this purple thing beneath all my cards. That's the Elixir bar. Each card costs a certain amount of Elixir, so you can see Giant, it's a little bit tankier, and it costs 5 Elixir, and Mini P.E.K.K.A. has 4 Elixir. Pretty basic. What this game is pretty much about is managing your Elixir. The most important thing to learn as a new player is how to start up a push. So a push is pretty much just an amalgamation of cards. So you usually want to start with your tank in the back, especially for the beginner deck. So you just put your Giant in the back. If you're running something like a Hog Rider, you place it at the bridge. You just fireball that. Okay. Now, next, you might want a mini tank behind it. I'm going to put Mini P.E.K.K.A. since it does a lot of damage and can kill all the units that are trying to kill my Knight. I'm going to arrows that real quick so everything doesn't die. Behind all this, you're also going to want a ranged unit, so I'm just going to put Archers behind this. You can also put Musketeer or Minions. Any of that works. And yeah, that's pretty much how to start up a push. You're always going to want your Giant in front as it is a tank. It kind of varies depending on win conditions. Like I said, if you have Hog Rider, then you're just going to place that at the bridge. But yeah, so remember, Giant in front, and then you're going to want a mini tank or a Mini P.E.K.K.A. to take out all those cards. And then you can put a ranged card behind it, like Musketeer, Archers, or Minions. The air cards are very important because you can see there, if he places Minions like he did, then you need something to take that out so they don't just shred through your push. Another really important thing to realize is that when you place cards, they have a loading time before they start attacking. So I'm going to place Archers right here, and you can see the little delay and then the timer it takes them to start moving. This is important because let's say they have a Mini P.E.K.K.A. crossing the bridge, you don't just want to place it on top of the Mini P.E.K.K.A. because then the Knight wouldn't be able to attack back while it's loading. It'd take a lot of damage. Okay, so that was a good arrows by him because he was able to take out the Minions. Unfortunately, he did not do anything to defend the Giant. So right there, I would have Mini P.E.K.K.A. to kill the Giant and then arrows so the Minions do not kill the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Okay, those Minions were good because, I mean, they were alright. But the reason those Minions were alright and not completely horrible is because the tower was tanking the damage. Although you don't want to lose your tower, the tower was tanking the damage so the Minions did not get taken out right away. And once you take their King Tower, it's an automatic win. An example, let's see what he does this. He fireballs my tower. Okay, so the reason you don't want to just fireball a tower is because it costs 4 Elixir, so that's a waste of 4 Elixir, and he didn't even get that much damage on my tower. So he spent 4 Elixir on that fireball, and he only did like 100 damage to my tower, but I spent 5 Elixir, and it was a win condition, so I went straight for his tower, and I got way more damage. right? So now we have a knight and archers going on his side. Let's see what he does. Okay, he's just going to let that go. Okay, he places the giant. Now right here, I'm going to use mini P.E.K.K.A. since it does a lot of damage, as you can see. And I'm also going to support it with the minions. And then we get a nice push going right here. This is called a counter push. It's when you play cards on defense and they survive and they go for his tower. So he places the knight, except that's going to get shredded because mini P.E.K.K.A. does a lot of damage, as well as the minions, which the knight cannot attack. Now we're looking pretty good right here. We have a giant going towards towers. He archers. I can just musketeer on top of that, and that should kill it. And that should be a 3 crown. Wait, he does minions, but he didn't minions on my giant. So right here, what you would do is place a mini tank on all the ranged cards, since the ranged cards do a lot of damage, and you want something to tank for that and take them out. Okay, so usually you do not want to go in right away, so you can place something behind your tower, get a little push set up. So he just giants the bridge, so I'm going to minions on that, since it is a swarm card and it does a lot of damage. And then once that giant dies, I can place a knight in front, and the reason I can do this is so I can have a counter push, right? So now I have a lot more elixir going at his tower than he did have at mine. I can also giant in front of this to protect my musketeer. You want to keep your ranged cards alive with tanks, since ranged cards do a lot of damage from afar. And if the tanks can tank for the ranged cards, then you can get so much value out of them. Okay, so now he has a mini P.E.K.K.A. and a musketeer coming on my tower. I'm archers for this, since they do range damage. It'll start damaging him early. And I can mini P.E.K.K.A. on the musketeer. Since it does a lot of damage, we'll just take it out right away. So now we can get our arrows ready. He might minions or archers on this, or you can just let it go. But we're up a tower, so if the game ended right now, then we would win, because we're up a tower. So he giants the bridge again, but nothing is supporting it, so I can take it out pretty easily with minions. I can also musketeer. I think there's a bit of an overcommitment, meaning I spent too much elixir for how much he spent, but we can just giant in front of this and get a counter push up. So he knights. That wasn't a good knight, because he placed it on top of my minions, and the knight cannot attack my minions since it's a ground card. So we can just keep spamming him with stuff at the bridge. He minions again, but with those minions, you want to place it on top of the troops, and I would first get a mini tank down to take those out. Like, if you mini P.E.K.K.A. on top of the musketeer, it'll destroy it right away. So what this game is all about is elixir management and elixir trades. You want to manage your elixir so you always have enough to be able to defend, and then elixir trades is, let's say he places a 5 elixir giant, you can place a 4 elixir mini P.E.K.K.A. to take out that giant, and you'd be up 1 elixir since you spent 1 less elixir than he did. So to wrap things up, the biggest takeaways you can take away from this video is to don't waste your elixir. Don't be a dumbass and fireball their tower. Get value out of the cards you place. And the biggest tip to help you improve is to not only take all these other tips that I've told you about, but to also just play the game. And if you really want to climb up fast, the best thing to do is just spend a whole bunch of money. Subscribe!